Hey everyone, welcome to my new tutorial. So a lot of you were asking me about how I made my logo back in the day. So finally I want to show you how you can easily use the Blender's build modifier to create an easy logo animation like this. If you're new to the channel and you'd like to see tutorials like this in the future, please hit that subscribe and the bell button if you want to get notified when I release something new. And if you enjoy this video, please hit that like button, it really helps my channel to grow. And if you're new to the world of 3D and Blender, and you want to become a 3D illustrator, go and check out my courses that are carefully designed to teach you beginner and intermediate skills in quickest and most effective way. For example, with the new Ultimate 3D bundle, you can go from simple cubic designs all the way to full character illustration in a matter of weeks. So if you're interested, please go check out the link in the description. So first, let's select everything here and press X and delete. And the first thing we'll need will be the shape for the logo. I've chosen a little bit different shape than mine. I wanted to show you how it can work on different shapes. So this will be kind of an S shape when we switch to the isometric view. And we can start by adding a plane. So let's press Shift A, Mesh, and add a plane. And I want to scale this down to half. So let's tab in, press S and 0.5 and enter to confirm. And let's place it somewhere, so I'll hit 7 on a numpad. Let's press G and hold Ctrl so we can easily snap this to these small increments, and let's move it so it's offset 1 meter on the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis, like this. Let's rotate this a little bit, and when you want to use build modifier, you need to take into account the order of elements inside your mesh. Basically, all the vertices have their ID, and they have their ordering, so your model is built in some particular order, and this can be modified, but the control over this is not so great. So if you go to mesh and sort elements, you can sort them depending on your view, for example from left to right or from front to back. And there are several other methods how to sort your vertices inside your mesh. But when I plan to use build modifier, I actually build the model in order I want to animate it. And since the build modifier will reveal your model one vertex at a time, you need a little bit more geometry if you want this to look really like growing by smaller pieces. So let's subdivide this, right click and choose subdivide. And once again, so we have 4x4 mesh. And now I want to extrude this upwards, and I want to extrude this into a cube. So let's press E and let's enter 0.25 and hit enter. And now you can just press Shift R to repeat the last action and hit this 3 times so you have a cube like this. And now let's switch to the face select. So let's press 3 and let's click this face right here and Control Shift right there to select this patch. And let's press E, 0.25 again, hit enter, and let's extrude this 3 more times again. So Shift R, 1, 2, 3, and we'll now go towards the top. So let's select this face right here, Control Shift click there, and E, 0.25, enter, and Shift R 3 times. So we'll repeat this few times. So let's select the patch right there in the back, and again E, 0.25, and repeat 3 times, and we can repeat 4 more times, so we have 1 more cube here. And now we can go to the other direction here, so E, 0.25, and again 3 times for the Shift R. And I want 2 more cubes here, so there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, and once again. Okay, and let's select this patch on the top, extrude 0.25, 3 times, repeat, and 4 times on top of that. And we'll close up our shape by selecting this patch right here, press E, 0.25, and again 3 times and 2 more cubes, so 4 times and 4 more. So this will be our basic shape, and you can see from this angle it kind of resembles an S, and there will be a dot here in the end, so that will complete the shape. And now if you go to the modifiers tab and add a build modifier, you will see the object disappear. And now if you scrub through the timeline, it builds itself up depending on the order you extruded it. So that's the first step, to have this build up like this. And now let's set up some cameras so we actually see what's happening here, and I will use my Isocam add-on. You can find a link in the description as well as guide how to install it. So let's choose the true Isocam. So we have a nice 4:3 ratio, and let's move this up a little bit. So press G then Z and move the camera up, and you can see this is not centered very well. There's a little bit more space here on the left. That's because this S shape is only 3 cubes wide here, but it looks weird if you add one more here. So let's leave it like this and we'll fix this later so it sits nicely in the middle. And now let's finish our animation. So let's select the S shape, and now in the modifiers tab I will add another one, and that's remesh. And actually I want to switch this to sharp, and the octary depth is 4 so far. So let's see what this does. And this looks more like it. You can see it nicely closes the object as it builds up, and that's what I want to go for here. So this will work nicely, and of course you can increase the remesh here so it's more granular and more detailed, something like this. And of course we can choose to have this shaded smooth and maybe add another level like this. So that's the animated object, and let's add a cube now. So let's press Shift A, add a cube, tab in, and let's scale this to 0.5, tab out, and let's look from the front by pressing 1 on a numpad, press G and move it here in place, snap it there by holding Control, now press 3 and move it here towards the side, still by holding Control you can snap it there, and that will be our little dot that will complete the S shape. And I want a little bit different animation for the dot in the end. So first of all, let's modify the length of the animation to something like 80. And now let's select the S shape and we'll change the length of this animation to 50 frames for the build modifier. So it's basically ready here on the frame 50. And now I want to select this cube. Let's crop towards the frame 70. Let's press I and insert scale keyframe, and now scrub back to 50. Let's press S and 0, and let's press I and insert scale as well. So this will create an animation like this. So when the shape completes the build, the cube will pop up. And now let's change the timing. So select this frame right here on the frame 50 and press T for interpolation menu, and let's choose elastic. That will create effect like this. It will be a little bit bouncy. And it really looks dynamic when you render this out. And for the camera movement, let's press Shift A and let's add an empty here, plane axis. And now I want to select the camera here in the outliner and Control click the empty and press Control P and set parent to object and keep transformation. So now if we rotate this, the camera will rotate as well, and it's easy to make like a round table animation. So first let's move it into place a little bit better. So let's press G then Y and enter 0.5 on the Y axis, hit enter, and you can see that nicely balanced out the position of the logo. And now you can select the camera and move it. Okay, and now let's select the empty again, and still on the frame 50 we can press I and insert keyframe for rotation. And now let's scrub to frame 1. And now we'll rotate the empty, so R, Z, and we want to go 45 degrees, like this, and let's press I and rotation. And it will create a camera movement like this. And I like the interpolation, so I won't do anything there. And basically that's it for the animation. The camera will rotate, this will pop up, and of course you can kind of change the camera movement if you need. You can go all the way to 60 for the camera movement, so when the cube starts to pop up the camera is still moving a little bit, but that all depends on your taste for this animation. So let's now finish with this. Let's press Shift A and add a plane. We'll create a background, so tab in and scale it up like this so it covers the camera. Okay, and now we'll go to the render settings, enable ambient occlusion, bloom, screen space, reflections. So we have a nicer preview, and let's go to the material preview, and let's go here and enable scene lights and scene world. This will make it a little bit dark, so we'll need to actually add some lights. So let's press Shift A, choose light, area light, press G then Z, move it up a tiny bit and make it larger. So we have a nice soft shadows, and let's go to the light settings and bump this up to something like 1500, and you have yourself some basic animation that's lighted and ready to render. Of course we can refine this. This by itself looks quite nice, and if you go for a really subtle effect, I think the monochrome color scheme like this should do the trick. Let me move this down a little bit. But if you want more colorful animation, we can play with that too. So let's select the background and we'll add a new material, and let's choose some blue/violet color like this. And of course, let's select the area light and let's hold period and switch this to 3D cursor and press R, X and 45 degrees minus, and again R, Z 45, so that will place the light opposite to the camera, and we have this nice reflection on the background. And we can now duplicate this, so let's press Shift D, right click to release, and R, Z, and let's enter 90 degrees. That will give us some light from the side as well, and we can reduce this to something like 1000. And now let's press Shift D again, RZ 180, that will give us some light on the other side as well, and we can make these maybe smaller a little bit. Of course, we can play with angles, so if you press R and X twice, you can bring this down a little bit, and here as well. Okay, and now let's play with colors a little bit. So maybe we can change this on the back to something like neon green and blue, and this one here to a purple, and here the blue should look nice. And you can see how the light bounces off the sides of the logo. And now let's select the cube, create a new material there, and we'll switch principled to emission shader, and let's add something like 5, so it's a little bit bright. And now if I press Ctrl B to limit the rendering, go to the render settings, switch to cycles, I will choose GPU, set up some denoising, and bring up the tiles. That's useful only if you render with GPU. And now let's hold Z and switch to rendered. We have a nice preview there. And the last step should be color management. And basically just choose some contrast look that you like, and maybe play with the exposure if you want to have this a little bit brighter. All depends on you. And then you would render this out and you have your logo. In terms of rendering, you just need to go to the output settings and change the PNG file format, because this would render out the image sequence. So if you want to render this into video file, just choose the video render here, and in encoding change container to something you want. I most often use MP4, and of course don't forget to click here and set your output for the video file. And then if you go to rendering and press Ctrl F12, this will render out your video. If you don't have the time, or if you don't have the strong GPU, just switch this back to Eevee, and you can render it out in Eevee just as well. It should look fine. So that's the logo animation for you. I really hope you enjoyed this. And again, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave that like, it will really help me. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day.